And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My wife says nobody listens to me. I just found out a few days ago, because on these podcasts and my music and everything else I do, I just do it. I just do it. I push a button, I leave, and I don't know what's going on. Yesterday, my marketing person told me my recent podcast hit 200,000 views. 200,000 views. I could jump off a bridge and not get 200,000 views. So would you please call my wife and tell her somebody's watching? I don't know. All right, today, stay with me. Don't hang up. Today, I'm going to tell you what I consider to be the best mortgage for a home loan in the United States, with one exception or one consideration. But 95% to me, the best home loan. Now, when I tell you, you're going to want to hang up because you're going to say that doesn't apply to you. The best is a VA mortgage, a veteran's mortgage. Don't hang up, because there is 25 million people, adults in the United States, that qualify for a VA mortgage. I ran into so many people. I've owned mortgage companies, largest real estate company in our market, but I authored the national selling book on home loans, and I've helped more people get VA mortgages that assumed they couldn't get it or they didn't qualify or whatever. They think you got to be in war and be killed to qualify for a VA loan. That's not true. There's 25 million people in the United States, adults, that can qualify, and half of those don't think they can qualify. 25 million, okay? You take Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas, you take those three states, combine them, there's like 7 million adults in those three states combined, okay? And we're saying 25 million people out there. So I'm going to say there's 20% of you listening right now that probably could qualify, or a family member that assumes they can't. So just listen to this, okay? And if you do have a VA mortgage, there's something I'm going to tell you that 60% of people don't know about a mortgage. That's awesome. Okay, first of all, who can qualify for a VA mortgage? You assume, well, you have to be in a war, you have to be in the service for 2 or 3 years. You got to have number one, 90 days of active service. Are active right now for 90 days, if you're currently active for 90 days, or if you were active for 90 days during a wartime period, or 180 days if you were in the service for 180 days in peacetime. You went in the service for 6 months, and whatever happened, you got out or whatever, and active reserves and National Guard, okay? There are hundreds of thousands of people that are in the active reserves and National Guard. 90 days. If you've been in the active reserves or National Guard for 90 days, you qualify for a VA mortgage, the best mortgage in the United States. One key person disagrees. Some of y'all may know, but I disagree with that key person, and I'll tell you why. And if you're a surviving spouse, if you've killed your husband, if in the war or if he died or whatever, I don't know. But if you're a surviving spouse, then you can qualify. Now, you married somebody that was married second time, but surviving spouses. And you say, okay, well, I used it, so I can't use it again. No, you can use it time after time after time. I've used my VA mortgage 3 times. 3 times, okay? So a lot of people can qualify, whether you can or a friend or family member. It is the best thing that you can ever do or tell a friend. To be sure and check and call. Okay, now, the advantages of a VA loan, why do I think it's the best and the best? Well, first of all, it's a 100% loan. There's 1 or 2 other type loans that are 100% loans, but those loans typically have restrictions on the areas and restrictions on income. VA, no. Make $1 million if you want, And the VA can be made anywhere in the United States, rural, whatever. So 100% loan, it's easier to qualify. The qualifications are far much easier on a VA loan than a, say, conventional loan or FHA loan. The credit score, you can go down to 580. VA says you can go down to 580. Your lender may say, we ain't doing a 580. But VA says that you can. The credit score is less. The debt ratios are far more forgiving. If you've been turned down for a conventional and you have the ability to get a VA, you want to go VA anyways, okay? Easier to qualify, and, okay, here's a special, it is assumable. Nobody thinks today that a mortgage is assumable. FHA loans are assumable. VA loans are assumable. If you have a VA loan and you're ready to sell, another veteran can assume that loan, pay you your equity, assume it, and reinstate your eligibility. You can also sell it to a non-veteran. They have to qualify for a loan, but a non-veteran can assume your VA loan and you're released from liability, but your eligibility is not reinstated if you want to buy another one. Now, if you're 60, 70 years old and you're ready to go into an apartment complex or condo or something and you're not going to use it again, then whatever. But it is assumable, and when we say assumable, it's assumable at the existing interest rate. The rates were like 3%. Again, I've got a 2.75% VA interest rate on a condo I own that we live in here on the water. If I ever sell that, I'm raising the price $50,000 and letting somebody assume a 2.75. I cannot tell you the thousands of dollars differential in that. Now, right now, no, you get a VA loan now and you want to sell it down the road. If the market's the same, then there may not be an advantage other than the closing cost is a new loan. The closing cost is several $1,000s, $10,000, and you don't have all that on an assumption. So it is assumable, and as I mentioned, you can use it again. You can use it multiple times. Now, what a lot of you are thinking, a lot of veterans I've talked to, well, I use my VA and can't use it again. No, you can use it again. There's what they call bonus entitlement, where you've used your first one, but if you want to buy a bigger house, 90% of you that have used your entitlement can buy a bigger house and still get a VA loan, okay? Now, what's the disadvantages of it? Well, the first thing, let me tell you, the guru, the national TV guru, says it's not the best because there is a funding fee. Typically, average somewhere around 2% funding fee. You have a $200,000 VA 100% loan, then they're going to add $4,000 to that mortgage, and they're going to loan you $204,000. So he says, hey, put 20% down on a conventional loan and get an 80% loan, and you have no funding fee. We know FHA loans have MIP, conventional loans have PMI, private mortgage insurance. You have all these extra fees on so many loans, and some gurus say put 20% down on a conventional and you won't pay those extra fees. Well, an advantage of the VA loan that I didn't mention is the rates are typically better. They're typically always better. So even if you're putting 20% down on a conventional, you can put 20% down on a VA, and I think your funding fee drops to 1% on that. Well, yeah, you can put 20% down on a conventional and not have that 1% funding fee, but you put 1% down on a VA with the 1% funding fee, the interest rate differential on 1% or 2% is only about 1/8%. If you can get 1/8% better on your VA versus a conventional or FHA, then you're going to come out better by paying even a 2% funding fee. Now, if you have a VA disability, then they waive that funding fee, okay? So but the disadvantages, the only disadvantage to me of any significance is that funding fee, but they add it to the loan, include it in the loan. You're only looking at $20 more a month or so for that, okay? It's easier. The disadvantages of the funding fee, it has to be owner occupied. You can't buy it as an investment property. Now, if you buy it, you live in it, owner occupied, and then sometime later down the road you want to buy a bigger house and rent it out, you can do that, okay? And the other disadvantage, in my opinion, the appraiser, the VA appraiser that has to appraise the property, he is held to a little bit stricter guideline on underwriting. We are in the process of selling a house that I'm kind of flipping. A buyer is going to VA. We had the appraisal come back, and there were several requirements on it, but we got it fixed. So the appraisal, okay? Also, if you have a VA loan, and if interest rates go down back in a couple of years ago when they were 3% or so, down to really 2.5% or so, VA has what they call an interest rate reduction loan. We call it EARL, but an interest rate reduction loan where they will, for limited underwriting, I mean, the assumption is you already got the VA. VA is already guaranteeing it. How can the VA lose by you getting a better rate and a lower payment? Okay, so it's a very much easier process to get your interest rate reduced. So if rates come back down again, and I do believe they're coming down, I believe we'll get back to 5% by next year. But you can do an interest rate reduction loan on there if you want to. Now, second last thing I mentioned, have you any questions on the VA, whether you can qualify or not qualify, go to va.gov, va.gov, give you all the information. You can plug in your name and stuff. It'll tell you about it. But VA, my opinion, absolutely the best mortgage in the United States. And I believe 30% of veterans either don't realize they can get it or that they qualify for it. They assume they've got to be in the military for 2 years, and that's not true. So check it out and see. Now, I always do a little extra. Of all the things I've done, of all the songs and I've written, I've been to Nashville recording songs. My sonic moments. Maybe you've heard my sonic moments. I do sonic moments. I have one once every month. Okay, you can click on the click here, and this sonic moment, I think, hit 50,000 views. I don't know why. God bless you. Stay out of trouble.